Uh-oh. Motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, and now it's time for our weekend recap. We're going to kick it off with the Romero versus Flores fight that I identified as a 50-50 fight going in, edging it to Romero on points by the slightest of margins, understanding that Flores is a live one. She's an aggressive fighter like Nazarena is an aggressive fighter, and because it's on U.S. soil, anything could happen. But I thought that Nazarena would do enough, having seen the fight. I felt that she did enough, but so often on U.S. soil, Argentines don't get the same consideration as some other more marketable fighters in what was a pro-Mexican crowd.
In Florida?
Well, that's what the commentators were saying during the fight. And you could hear the crowd's reaction to Flores as opposed to Nazarena Romero. It's not my imagination that was a very pro-Mexican crowd urging on the Mexican fighter as opposed to the Argentine, though. Based on what I saw, Nazarena should have won.
Why?
Well, there's been a lot of talk about fighters moving a bit too much and backpedaling too much and how judges shouldn't reward that on the basis of what we saw in Times Square and what we saw in Saudi.
This was different.
Because the fighter backpedaling wasn't just backpedaling, they were landing punches, landing counters with some regularity that even though Flores was the fighter coming forward, more often than not, she was doing so and getting hit, doing so and getting clipped. And even if she is showing a good chin and a great engine, even if she is backing off the champion, she's doing so and getting hit. Getting hit more than the champion, I want to say. Now, whenever Flores did get in with a shot, you could see it had a noticeable effect on Nazarena Romero, that Mayeli's punches seemed harder than Nazarena's, but she wasn't landing as many of them.
She wasn't landing as much, as frequently as Nazarena Romero. Flores was tantamount to a piñata out there. She couldn't miss her.
I lost count of how many chopping right hands, counter right hands, jabs,
body shots.
For me, it's not even a question of who landed more clean and clear punches. That was Nazarena Romero by a very wide margin. So even if Mayeli is keeping the pressure on and barreling forward, well, those are still scoring blows, and she's scoring them more often than Mayeli is. You really can't liken this to what we saw in Canelo versus Skull, because the difference is the fighter backpedaling was also the fighter landing more punches.
And that offsets the movement. That granted, you're giving up real estate, but it's offset by the punches you're landing, and Nazarena landed a lot of them.
The ends have to justify the means, that if you're going to move that much, you have to land punches. And Nazarena landed plenty of punches, enough, I think, that she should have been awarded the decision. The most I could give Flores for her efforts were 3, maybe 4 rounds out of the 10.
Because I saw a swing round in there, but that's it. She got hit way too much. And even if she showed a great chin, those are still scoring blows. The work for Mayeli was often messy and uncoordinated.
Frankly, they gave her the fight just because she was coming forward, but ignoring all the work, all the punches from Nazarena. Bit of partiality in there. I think the higher-ups felt that a Mexican fighter is more marketable than an Argentinian fighter.
It's not the first time I saw a girl get robbed on a pro box show. Regina Chavez got robbed in the Jasmine Artiga fight. She got screwed. Yesterday, Nazarena got screwed.
Yeah, she got jobbed, man. She got robbed. Argentinian fighters often get screwed over on American soil, whether you're talking about Gustavo Lemos in the Richardson-Hitchens fight, Brian Castaño in the first Charlo fight, or Nazarena Romero yesterday.
There's no consistency in these decisions. That If you can award Mayeli Flores the decision for doing little more than coming forward, then why didn't that work for Gustavo Lemos? And why didn't that work for Brian Castaño?
It didn't work because they're Argentinian and they seldom get consideration on U.S. soil. The common denominator isn't even how they fought so much as they're all Argentinian.
Because Navarette Romero did the opposite of what Brian Castaño did, the opposite of what Gustavo Lemos did. She used the ring, moved and punched, got off many, many, many counters, clean and clear punches you don't have to look for, and she still lost.
There's no consistency between how some judges score a fight and others. Boxing wants to keep it this way so that they can screw over whoever they have to screw over based on whatever their school of thought is. So I very much think it was a bad decision. I think Nazarena got robbed. It's unfortunate.
And thus, Mayeli Flores is the new WBA Super Bantamweight champion, holding the final puzzle piece to the undisputed crown, the undisputed picture. I expect that the winner of Scottney versus Mercado will soon come after her.
Or she will come after them. One way or another, all the champions at this weight are on a collision course, and we could see an undisputed champion crowned before the year is out. We'll talk more about it in another video.
Men's super flyweight news. Fernando Martinez and former champion Kazuto Ioka met in Tokyo earlier today for the second time, and just like before, Fernando won a points decision as the away fighter,
surviving a 10th round knockdown to win the fight on all three judges' scorecards. Kazuto Ioka is seeming more and more a man hard done on his own home turf, on his own home soil. Both times they fought, it was in Japan.
Kazuto lost both times. This is why I laugh sometimes when I see Americans try to criticize the Japanese boxing commission, the Japanese boxing scene, and fighters having to go over there when an away fighter has a better chance at getting a fair shake in Japan than they ever did in America.
A fight of some significance that didn't get a lot of airtime here in the United States is here in America. Most boxing fans don't follow the lower weights, the flyweights, the super flyweights.
Don't think this fight had a U.S. broadcast partner.
Didn't get to take it in myself. This is just my reaction to the outcome. Perhaps it's better for everyone that Fernando Martinez remains WBA champion, because had Kazuto won...
Better for everyone. Better for who?
For Bam Rodriguez, who's en route to unify titles with WBO champion Fumalele Kafu, who I expect him to beat, that if he fights Fernando right after that, he's not fighting an old guy. So many people look at the names on his resume so far: Quadras, Sor Rungvisai, Gallo Estrada, and the criticism seems to be that while those are three of the four kings at super flyweight, they were all old. They were all past it. So they don't give Bam a lot of credit for beating those guys.
And if Kazuto would have won instead of Puma, you know what they would have said? They would have said, he's just another old guy. A 4-division champion like Chocolatito is a 4-division champion, but still another old guy. They want to see Bam Rodriguez in there with somebody fresher, somebody younger.
Somebody like Fernando, who's unbeaten and beat not one, but two reigning champions at this weight. The first was then IBF champion Jerwin Ancajas. The second was Kazuto Ioka.
Wait, then what happened to his IBF title?
No, he was stripped of it by the IBF for going through with the Kazuto Ioka rematch. That's what happened to that. And that title, that vacant title, is set to be contested for very soon.
After the first Ioka fight, Fernando had a mandatory in the queue by way of the IBF, and for going through with the Ioka rematch, he was stripped of the red belt. That's what happened.
But he still has the black and gold one, and he can bring it to a Bam Rodriguez fight, so perhaps it's better optics that if Bam handles Kafu, he then fights Fernando, who's an unbeaten guy.
He's not old, he's not over the hill, he's not past his prime, he's seasoned, he's been there and done that with at least two reigning champions.
Which makes for better optics for Bam Rodriguez. That he beat a young unbeaten guy in Sonny Edwards, could beat another one in Fumalele Kafu, and then another, potentially, in Fernando, if that's what it comes to.
That's the silver lining.
And my initial reaction to Puma's second decision win over Kazuto Ioka. It's unfortunate for Kazuto. He tried hard to stay in the world title picture, but it was not meant to be.
Over to the controversy here stateside last night in California, as California is poised to change the Emmanuel Navarrete versus Charlie Suarez fight to a no contest.
San Diego. The California State Athletic Commission is expected to convert Emmanuel Navarrette's controversial technical decision win over Charlie Suarez to a no contest. Boxing Scene learned Saturday night. A cut at Navarrette's left eyebrow in the 6th round had been ruled the result of an accidental clash of heads. The fight ended at the start of the 8th and was sent to the scorecards. In the hours after an immediate judgment was made to award Navarrete the win at the Pechanga Arena, a subsequent replay emerged showing the champion's cut was caused by the challenger Charlie Suarez's left-handed punch, and that's what I thought. That's what I saw.
That cut was not a result of a clash of heads. That was the result of a punch. Charlie should have won.
If that had been the final decision in the minutes after ringside physician Dr. Robert Ruelas ruled the fight to be stopped, Suarez would have been declared the winner by technical knockout. Instead, referee Edward Calantes immediately ruled that the clash of heads caused the cut, and the video replay official Jack Reese said there was no conclusive evidence from the initial scenes he reviewed to overturn that call.
Not at first.
Our rules on replay say, unless it's undisputed, the referee's call shall stand. And this was very disputable, Reese told Boxing Scene. I had quite a few looks at it, but nothing up close, and nothing at the correct angle. However, the latter footage revealed Suarez's punch is what opened the cut, and that has convinced the California Commission to adapt and label the outcome a no contest that will provoke a rematch ordered by the WBO. Following Saturday night's confusing events, both fighters provided divergent explanations.
Is that the same Jack Reese that was the referee in the Wilder vs. Fury fight?
One in the same. While the Philippines' Suarez insisted his punch is what opened the cut, the champion from Mexico maintained it was Suarez's head that caused the cut 2 layers deep and forced the bout's outcome to the scorecards, which were returned 77-76, 78-75, and 77-76 in Navarrette's favor. I felt it was a headbutt. I saw the review. It seemed like a punch, but it exploded 2 layers of the skin, Navarrete said to reporters while standing as the winner. I didn't want it to end. I was fine to keep going. I felt like the best rounds were still to come, but the doctor stopped the fight. And this would be the second time that Navarrete was saved by officials officiating a fight he was in. Remember the Liam Wilson fight?
You think he was saved?
I absolutely do, and if you caught my live stream, you'll know that. Just like in the Liam Wilson fight, strings had to get pulled to ensure that Navarrete gets the win.
He agreed that Suarez gave him a demanding bout and said he would be a great opponent. He is a great opponent, so a rematch would be good. Suarez, who took an 18-0 record into the bout, said he feels a rematch is justified given the dispute over the way it ended.
I thought I had a chance to win the fight. I had 5 more rounds to try to win. If the bout hadn't been stopped, Suarez said, the fight was a highly entertaining scrap that saw both men swing for the proverbial fences, with each rocked in various moments.
I had Emmanuel ahead at the time of the stoppage, and that is why I think they stopped it. By ruling it a clash of heads and then stopping the bout, you allow it to go to the judges' scorecards at a time where Navarrete is up.
Whereas if they would have let the contest continue between the severity of the cut and the way that the fight was going, that Emmanuel looked like he was starting to unravel, who knows what would have happened? He probably would have lost.
So they nipped it in the bud before it came to that.
Suarez said it reminded him of countryman Manny Pacquiao's epic brawls with Mexican warriors including Juan Manuel Marquez, Eric Morales, and Marco Antonio Barrera. Suarez said he was saddened by the turn of events against him, but obeying the rulings instead of vehemently arguing with officials. I respect Navarrete because he's a good boxer, and he'll give me a chance to rematch after the fight. That was entertaining, Suarez said. I'm sad, but I have the hope they will give me another chance, maybe next time. Top-ranked Vice President of Operations Carl Moretti immediately said after the bout that he would push for a rematch. Navarrete, however, had great difficulty making the weight for the 130-pound defense, but he said he didn't feel weakened during the bout, and he'll decide during the 2-month cut healing period if he'll remain as champion or try again at lightweight after a title fight loss at 135 to Denis Berinchyk. You saw the level of fight and how it developed in the 7 rounds. I think we threw more punches than all of those fights, Canelo versus Skull, Haney versus Ramirez last weekend, Navarrete said. I felt good, I felt competent. There were opponents you can say he made me look limited, but there were alternatives.
Now here's reality. Even with Carl Moretti pushing for a rematch, and even if the WBO orders one, the only real leverage to see it happen is how bad does Navarrete want to keep that belt. And if Navarrete has it in his head that this may be his last fight at the weight, then it doesn't matter what they do, and it doesn't matter what they order. It doesn't guarantee a second fight.
The only silver lining is that because the California Commission is poised to rule the fight a no contest, Charlie Suarez's unbeaten record may be restored. And since the WBO is poised to order a rematch, while he may not get a second fight at Emmanuel, he may still get another chance to fight for the brown belt.
Because Emmanuel might move up. Emmanuel said yes, there was pressure in making the weight, 0.4 pounds with time against me, but the weight was made. I recovered, I felt good in there. The work we did in the fight is the work we planned. I'll see what comes and make a decision on the rematch.
It's entirely possible that Emmanuel leaves this division, drops the WBO title, and with it, any obligation to fight Charlie again.
But if you ask me what I saw, if you ask me what happened, Emmanuel got saved. And that's the second time that's happened.
It happened in the Liam Wilson fight after a hard knockdown, and it happened here again with this cut. That was not due to a clash of heads. That was from a left hand. Veteran boxing scribe Stephen Kimothy had a similar reaction, saying, "Oh, so that last super zoom, slow-mo shows, it was a punch that caused the cut on Navarrete."
Wow. Disgruntled Hall of Fame inductee Lou Dembella said, "Come on, Steve. How the F could both the replay officials and ESPN production miss that? It's so effing clear. Multiple angles without evidence of the mystery headbutt. What in the A-side protection?"
Protecting, yet again. Boxing scribe Jean Zidale said, "A fighter like Navarrete burns the candle on both ends. I think we're seeing the end of his prime. One of his fights is like 3-4 fights for other fighters because of the action he creates. Salute to one of the true action stars of this era pulling it out."
I think Sean picked a very awkward time to have an Emmanuel Navarrete appreciation moment when most people feel he didn't pull it out. He got saved. He got lucky, and that's not even the first time that's happened.
I like El Vaquero, by the way, but I'm not going to sugarcoat what I saw to accommodate him or anybody else. He didn't pull it out. He got saved. The cut was off a punch, and by that reckoning, he should have lost. Then you do a rematch. Then there's a precedent for it. And if people are frustrated, it's because they feel like boxing misrepresents itself. It sells itself as a sport.
But when you go to these lengths to ensure that Navarrete doesn't lose, is it a sport?
Now, the boxing community at large and those that work within it are sick and tired of the chicanery and the politics, the A-side tactics, and situations like this one where you know what you saw, but you also know what's going on, what's behind it.
It's no wonder that boxing is in decline in this country when there's no air of spontaneity. You know who they're invested in.
So there are no surprises.
Some people were saying that it wasn't so much the punch, but the glove that cut Navarrete above his eye. But one way or another, it wasn't a clash of heads.
It all just gets boring after a while and makes the sport somewhat unwatchable for some.
My honest opinion is I would be surprised if there's a rematch.